Stories are 22 times more memorable than facts alone. Humankind have been telling stories since the beginning of time. When interviewers ask you, like, tell me about a time when, they're really looking for you to tell a story.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Frustrated to Fluent. I'm your host, Devon Bruce. I'm the founder and CEO of the English Communication Academy. We help non-native English speakers in healthcare communicate effectively with their patients, colleagues, and staff. And today I'm speaking with Kathleen Hamel. She's a career communication coach and university level English instructor with over 3 years of experience teaching abroad. She specializes in helping international business professionals enhance their English fluency, presentation skills, and cross-cultural communication. Through her work in universities and coaching programs, Kathleen empowers learners to thrive in global workplaces with confidence and clarity. So, Kathleen, thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to talk to you just because I know the work that you do. I've been following your work for a long time, and you are such a good coach. You are really good at this. And so, just to have you on, I know that you're going to be dropping some knowledge that's going to help a lot of people. And we are specifically talking about the interviewing process because you have a lot of experience with that. And especially in this market, people are losing their jobs. A lot of non-native English speakers in particular, they feel like they don't really have a leg up, not a leg up, but they don't feel like they will be able to compete for
Mhm.
jobs because of what's going on right now. So I know this conversation in particular can't come at a better time because I know that the interviewing process is a really hard thing for non-native English speakers. So super excited to talk about this today because I know it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's kind of a shame that people feel that way, that they don't have that competitive advantage, because I see it completely differently. Like, you can speak more than one language, you understand more than one culture. Like, that is a huge advantage in and of itself. So hopefully we can dispel some of those fears together today.
Yes, yes, yes. Let's do this. So I just want to get started with what are your thoughts on this? So why do you think so many non-native English speakers, especially in healthcare, why do you think they struggle with job interviews even when they are really qualified for the job?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think that the number one thing that it comes down to is the fact that we are speaking in another language and therefore dealing with cross-cultural communication. People from different cultures communicate differently and have different expectations of how we should communicate. So, depending on where this professional lives and is working is going to affect that context. You and I were both from the US, so I'm just going to give that as an example. So, people from the US are the most direct communicators in the whole world. So, we mean what we say and we say what we mean. And if you leave some nuance there, it can become confusing. And so, it kind of applies to interviews as well. When someone asks you an interview question, they expect you to tell your story with details, not leaving anything unsaid. And it can feel really uncomfortable for people who come from a culture that, context is implied, and where I don't need to say everything. I don't need to tell you exactly all of my accomplishments, right? So it can get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just because depending on what culture they come from, they may feel that being direct is considered disrespectful.
Hmm.
And so just that alone could have an implication that they may not be as confident as they are. and it's
Hmm.
just simply a different way in communicating. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Now, having said that, from your experience, what are some common mistakes non-native English speakers make in interviews?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is not using like storytelling techniques or just telling your story in general. A lot of people tend to just give off the facts. Like, I wouldn't say verbatim from their resumes or things like that, but kind of, in that style. Stories are 22 times more memorable than facts alone. Humankind have been telling stories since the beginning of time. When interviewers ask you, like, tell me about a time when, they're really looking for you to tell a story. So having specific stories in your back pocket to be able to tell, like, tell me about a time where you had to solve a difficult situation, really telling them a specific instance where that happened, instead of being really general with it, because that interviewer is going to remember that time that you had to save 5 people's lives in a day, like some example like that. So yeah, storytelling is really, really powerful.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because I co-signed everything that you just said because
Mhm.
it reminded me when I was an English coach. This was, gosh, maybe 4 years ago. I was still taking on personal clients and I was helping someone get into their dream residency program, and they were really concerned about the interview. That was
Mhm.
really was nervous about that. And so we did a lot of role play on storytelling. And so I coached them that the more authentically vulnerable you can be on some of the hardships that you've had to overcome just to get to this point, is going to really make you memorable, because storytelling helps you be memorable. Because from the person giving the interview, it's just people just say the same thing over and over and over and over again, but they're going to remember an authentic story.
Yep.
And so we really honed in on that. And she got into her residency program and she called me crying, just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, because of the interview, they remembered me. And now I'm in a really good position. So I fully agree with you that storytelling is a missed opportunity that many people do not take. So yeah,
Yeah.
I fully agree with you there. Now, going on to other questions that people have in the interviewing process, what's that one question that every candidate should always prepare for?
Yeah. I think I'm gonna say something and then I'm gonna give my real answer.
Okay.
I think that, like, most people simply think, what is your greatest weakness? What is your greatest strength? And these are super important questions to know how to answer. But I think the one that gets most overlooked is, what questions do you have for me, when the interviewer asks that at the end of the interview? Because
Interesting.
oftentimes when we're in an interview, we feel like it's one sided, right? The questions are coming at me. But really trying to change your mindset and thinking about interviews as a conversation, because interviews are really about finding the best fit for both parties involved, right? So you need to come with questions as well. You need to decide, is this also a good fit for me? I know in this job market, with jobs being scarce, it doesn't feel so strongly these days because you just need to get a job, and I completely understand that as well. But, you know, if you get into a position after an interview that didn't make you feel great, and a year down the line, you're just going to be in that same situation where, okay, I'm not thriving here. I need to find somewhere else where I'm going to succeed. And so then you're back in that interview process again, right? So, a question, for example, that you could use to ask the interviewer is, what are some attributes does someone need to have in order to be really successful in this position? And that also opens the door for you to share more about yourself, if some of the attributes that the interviewer shares that they're looking for that you have, but you haven't actually expressed yet, it gives you that opportunity to tell another story.
Hmm. Very interesting. I was not expecting you to say that, but it makes a lot of sense because you're right. When you go into the interview, it's not one-sided, even though we all feel like it is because we want that job. But you are 1,000% right. If it has to be the right fit, and if you do not ask questions, then it may not be the right fit.
Hmm.
And even though times we are in unprecedented times right now, I understand the importance of making sure it's still the right fit, even if it's the short term. Asking those key questions is going to help on both sides. Well, so yeah, that makes so much sense.
Hmm.
Now, and when it comes to tips or hacks, because there's a lot of stuff online to talk that talks about this. Now, what are some overlooked tips or hacks that can make a big difference in how someone comes across in an interview, especially in English? Because as you know, a lot of people are so worried about their accent or if
Mm.
they come across a certain way. So, what are some tips or hacks that you can think of that are often overlooked?
So, the old adage is practice makes perfect, right? But I'm going to add to that. So, there are different types of interview questions, and there's different strategies and kind of like formulas to be able to answer these questions with confidence and to get your message across really clearly and in a direct way as well. So, first of all, learning those strategies will help you immensely because you need to understand, why is the interviewer asking this question? What do they actually want to learn from me? And when you understand that, when you can apply that strategy or that formula, it will allow them to get the answer or the information that they need. So that's the first thing. And maybe you're wondering, okay, well, how do I practice? How do I learn about
Hmm.
these things? And there's two ways. The first way, I think, is independently. There are resources out there, like LinkedIn does have an interview prep session, like section in their website. I was trying to find it before we were talking because I knew exactly how to get to it before, but it
Hmm.
seems like they've hidden it for some reason.
Oh
And
no.
so I googled LinkedIn interview prep, and working with past clients, this may only be available if your LinkedIn is in English. Because I
Okay.
know with past clients who primarily speak Japanese or Portuguese, they weren't able to access this until they switched their account into English. But that being said, they have, I think, the 25 most common questions. They have tips and strategies, and you can actually record your answers. And I think AI gives feedback. Not only do they have the 25 most common questions, but they also have questions dependent upon your industry and your background. So super helpful if you're, wanting to do this on your own. And I think the other option is to seek help, seek out help coaches who specialize with interviews. They can give you tips and tricks even more in depth than what we're talking about today. And you can practice with them. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll eventually feel. So, just practicing.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, these resources on LinkedIn, are they free or do you need a subscription for that?
Great question. So they do have a free aspect to them. The
Okay.
recording your answer is free. The tips that they give are free. But obviously, LinkedIn loves to make money. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
And so if you do upgrade, they give you more example answers. And I think they give various field, like industry answers as well. So I'm not sure if it's worth it or not.
Hmm.
But yeah, they do have both.
Okay. So just the fact that there's a free resource for anyone on LinkedIn to help prepare is key. And I'll make sure to put a link for that in the description box
Mhm.
so that way people can have access to that because I don't think a lot of people know that that even exists.
No,
Yeah.
especially now that they're hiding it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So I'll be sure to put that in the description. So thank you. Thank you.
Of
That's really
course.
helpful.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to being or sounding confident, as you know, that is like the number one thing. It seems like confidence is like everything falls under not sounding confident, not being confident, not feeling confident. So, out of all the things that you do to help people with the interviewing process, what's your number one tip for sounding more confident, especially when someone is feeling very nervous?
Yeah. This is going to sound pretty simple, but it's really just taking your time and breathing. We can really get in our own heads about how we sound. We're not sounding perfect. Oh, I answered that question incorrectly 2 questions ago when you're trying to answer your new question. But just remember that the interviewer, they probably know that English isn't your first language, and that's okay. Like, there's no problems with that. It's just making sure that you're not getting into your own head about any potential mistakes that you're making. Native English speakers make mistakes during interviews. Everyone makes mistakes. So, focusing on breathing techniques that you can do, also, telling yourself affirmations before and maybe even during your interview, like, I can speak English confidently and fluently, can really change your mindset. And I know that's really simple and basic, but I think that's really what it comes down to is just you have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, the interviewer is not going to believe in you.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because on my YouTube channel, this is something that I talk about often
Mm.
because a lot of people think that the solutions are like these big, huge things that are going to take years and years, but actually, just breathing can change the game.
Mhm.
Giving yourself grace because something that I always say is that a lot of the time it's not a language issue, it's a nervous system issue. And so if your nervous system is not feeling safe, then it doesn't matter how fluent you are. But if you can calm your nervous system down and let it be known that you are safe, then that will help a lot. Also, what you touched on is saying like giving yourself grace, like it's okay to be nervous, it's okay to make mistakes. That's another thing that I always talk about because people beat themselves up so much when they make a mistake,
Mhm.
but you can be scared and be confident. Like it's not either or. Like that's something that like I said I try to make sure that people know, like if you embrace the discomfort and say, you know what, I'm extremely nervous, but that's okay. I'm
Mhm.
nervous, but I'm qualified for the job. I'm feeling anxious and I will have a good interview.
Mhm.
And simply acknowledging it is key.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything that you're saying, right? It starts here.
Yes.
uh, and if you are at the interview process, you already should have the knowledge that you are a highly qualified candidate, right? Just to be able
Yes.
to get into that door to have that conversation, like you're already there, right? So whether you
Mhm.
believe it or not, but you should, you need to
Yep.
start telling yourself that.
Yep. I could not agree with you more. Now finally, for someone who's listening out there and they have an interview come up and they are extremely nervous about, how they sound or they're not confident, if they're extremely nervous, what's something that you would say to them to help them with their nerves?
Yeah, 2 things. Well, first, I want to say this is totally normal. Everything you're feeling is totally normal. You have every right to feel nervous. It's scary, right? We feel like we're in the spotlight. We have to show this person who we are in the best light possible in under an hour, right? But the first thing, which I already mentioned, right? Start practicing. I don't think I need to add anything more to that, but do research. The more research you do about the company, about the kinds of questions they might ask you, it will lower that anxiety. On websites like Indeed and Glassdoor, you can find a lot of information about people who have gone through the interview process, most likely for your exact title and position as well. And you can see what their interviews were like. I always say, take it with a grain of salt because oftentimes people leave reviews when it went really well or really terrible.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So, don't focus on that, but, allow that research to help you, to help your practice, to help calm your nerves. So those are my two main aspects.
Yeah, and I know I've said that a lot during our time together, but I could not agree with you more because that was something when I was coaching people on the interviewing process. If you research the company and then you incorporate some of that research when you're giving the answer, that is really beneficial on making sure that you are remembered because
Hmm.
the name of the game is making sure that they remember you
Yep,
for the
exactly.
right reason.
Yes.
Let me
That's a good
reiterate
point.
that. Yeah. But yeah, doing the research first can be really helpful with calming your nerves because you're going in more prepared. So when you do that and you practice
Hmm.
and you breathe and you calm your nervous system down,
Hmm.
that's a winning combination in my book.
100% agree. 100% agree.
All right, Kathleen, this was jam-packed with very actionable tips for people who are doing the interviewing process. So thank you so much. Where can
Yes.
people find you online?
You can find me at LinkedIn. I also am on Instagram at Go Global English. And please feel free to reach out and say hi with any questions you have also. Devin,
Thank
and I want to
you.
say thank you, Devin. Thank you so much for
Oh,
having me.
yeah.
This was so much fun.
Yes, this was a great conversation. And like I said, I know this is going to help people because we are in unprecedented times and they are feeling very frustrated with the job search and because they're non-native English speakers, they feel like they have even more to prove or they have like a setback in some way. And
Mhm.
so I just want to help as much as I can and having conversations like these with amazing people like yourself is why I love helping the helpers in the way that I do. So I personally just want to thank you for coming on because yeah, this was a really good conversation.
Yay. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. And if you want to connect with Kathleen, her links are in the description box. And if you need help, if you are a non native English speaker in healthcare and you are tired of doing things alone, please join us in our academy. It's free. Anyone in healthcare can join. We have a team of experts standing by to help you. So the link for that is in the description box below as well. So, Kathleen, thank you so much for coming on. This was a real treat.
Thanks again, Devin.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Take care.